Hey there, hi there, ho there, and welcome back to another exciting edition of the Cardinal Couple Radio Hour podcast. A big hello to you if you're listening to us the first time, or whether you're a long-time listener, or maybe you just stumbled upon us on the internet, whatever. Welcome, all are welcome here as we discuss the joy and excitement of U of L women's athletics, and certainly have had a plethora. How do you like that term, Case?
There you go.
Full, of Cardinal fall athletics on the women's side. With me this morning, Case Hoskins. We've got Jared at taking pictures of himself at the football game, and Daryl was at a Louder Than Life, a big music festival that they have here in our basically out in our area that where Freedom Hall is, and all that area out there, where the old Cardinal Stadium used to be, and stuff like that. In that part of town. When I used to live down on Delora Avenue years ago, we could hear that festival from our front porch. But yeah, they got a lot of good bands down there, Case.
Yeah, I was disappointed. Yesterday would have been the day that I was going to go if I was only going to get single day tickets. I was out of town for an event that wrapped up at around 4:30, 5 o'clock. And with the traffic, just I wasn't able to make it back to the women's soccer game, but just being at the event at all would have made the price that I would have paid for a single day VIP pass, because I'm done with GA. I've done plenty of GA for Louder Than Life. But a single day VIP pass, it would have made the price unpalatable to only be able to be there for a few hours. So
a good term, a good term indeed. Uh, and I have not been to Louder Than Life in its time around or history or anything. I used to go to the old Louisville Jam. They had that at the old Cardinal Stadium years ago. Those were some very fun events out there. And yes, perhaps there were a beverage or two consumed, but
no,
that was
what? No.
no, not me, not the kid. I remember staggering around out there trying to find Sonia, and couldn't find her anywhere. Had no idea where she was, so I went back for another beer. And after about an hour of looking for her, that's about how it went. I finally said, "I wonder if she brought her phone." Yes, those crazy days. But enough of that. Enough of craziness like there. What's going on in your world, Case? Tell me what the fun part of the week was. What was the unfun part of the week? Fill us in.
It's just been busy. I finally filed an expense report for the first time since June, um, because I finally decided there's not going to be a week where I'm not traveling, so there's no point in putting off that. Well, I'll just file it after this travel. I'll file it after this travel. Might as well just file it. So finally filed an expense report. So that was the fun part, I guess, was seeing the number that's going to be credited back to me. Unfun part, Thursday, having to be in Cincinnati at 8, then go to Lexington for that event that started, and there's a networking conference, social requirements that go along with that. So got to leave the house by around 6:15, 6:30 to make it to that meeting in Cincinnati, and then hit the hotel room bed after 11. So it was a long day on Thursday.
Boy, sure sad. Yeah, gosh. I used to go to Lexington back in the old days of the coffee business, starting out once a week, and then I was up there twice a week up in that Lexington, Georgetown, Versailles, or all that area up there, doing my work, and was adding a lot of property. And then all of a sudden, they told me to stop adding accounts up there, and I'm like, "What, you want me not to go look for any more business?" And they said no. And so I said, "Okay, fine." So I stopped selling accounts, and then a few weeks later, they came to me and said, "Hey, we're doing some cutbacks, and I guess whose neck is on the chopping block." And I raised my hand in the air and said, "Me?
Well, is it
Thank you."
me? Hello? Can I guess?
Do I get 3 guesses?
Yeah.
Could I say the Thanksgiving turkey? No. But
Is it
anywho,
Joe? Was it Joe? You're just telling me because Joe is unfortunate? Yeah, no, well.
what about that goof off they got over there in Ashland? How about it? Nope, not him. Okay. No, but I had a lot of fun up there in my days up there. I got to meet some really neat people. Had some fun. Couple of good restaurants that used to be up there. I think they're no longer in effect or around or anything, but they had a place called Ed and Fred's Desert Moon. They were very eclectic and they were very fun. They were a customer of mine, so I got to drink there at reduced cost. Love that. And would sometimes. After a long day in Lexington, there was nothing like kind of leaning back and say, "Give me one." Yeah, nice place there. And then, it's I used to really have a dislike for Lexington because UK was up there. But then I realized, hey, there's a lot more to Lexington than just the cats. There's some fun things up here to do, and they're bringing some great concerts up there too, Case. But some good acts that Louisville doesn't get. So
Yeah, Rupp still seems to get a lot more of the metal concerts than the Center does, and I continue to be baffled. But yeah, it is what it is.
yeah, I'm confused by it too. I mean, you know, obviously Rupp Arena's maybe a bigger facility than where Louisville could put them. I don't know if the Yum
Doesn't
Center
seat more.
matches. Does it not the same seating? Is it a bigger seating size than the KFC Yum Center?
The Center seats more.
Oh, okay. I thought Rupp held more for concerts, but
Maybe it does because of the way that it's so tight. They lose fewer seats by where they place the stage potentially, but I don't know. I hate being in Rupp Arena. It's so tight. It's so steep. Just feels very compact.
oh, for sure, yeah, it does. And I think that besides being on the floor at Media Row for the basketball game, no, that was a Memorial. I'm sorry, that was not a Rupp. I guess the last time I was in Rupp was maybe for either one of the U of L UK women's basketball games. Maybe it was a volleyball game that Jared and I may have gone up to. I'm not sure on that, but I do remember one of the best times I had in Rupp was when the Grateful Dead was
Hmm.
there. We had a lot of fun at that. That was a great time. There were there were basically people dancing in our aisle back and forth and taking clothes off.
Wow.
And yeah, I mean,
That sounds about on brand for a Grateful Dead concert, though. So
it was that and more. We went down. I think Sonny had to use the restroom or something, so I walked her down to the bathroom and in the concourse that goes around her up. Is a walk-in area that leads to the various sections. There were people in the corners making out. They were passing illegal substances back and forth. It was a true Grateful Dead concert. A lot of fun. But hey, we're not here to talk about the Deadheads, although it's a lot of fun to talk about.
But I will say one more thing about Rupp Arena, and actually it's
Okay.
not about Rupp Arena. It's about the Central Bank Center because that's where this conference was. What in the world have they done with the layout? I don't know if you've been in there, but it feels like they have this concept of all these pedestrian bridges, right? You can get from hotel to hotel to the conference center for pedestrian, like via the pedestrian bridges. It's nice. But so when we had to take our booth stuff for the trade show yesterday, we ended up deciding we were just going to park at the garage at the Hilton. The Hilton is connected via Skybridge to the Hyatt, which is connected to the Central Bank Center.
Right.
We're like, well, just tote the stuff. It'll be fine. You've got the skywalks. Then you can go across and you're there. Okay. Where the Hyatt connects to the Central Bank Center is basically at Rupp Arena. The actual conference center portion of it is on the opposite side. So once you connected to it, we had to walk all the way across the entire thing.
Oh gosh.
From the Hilton to the Central Bank Center via the two pedestrian bridges requires use of two elevators. You don't even. It's not. They're not even on
Oh
the same
no.
level. So it was
Oh.
quite an adventure, actually. Um, but yeah, it very interestingly laid out space. Put it that way. Looks very nice from the outside.
I think we when we had our we used to go up there and take part in the yearly coffee convention they had back there back when I was selling coffee. We would set up our booth and in the infinite planning of all this stuff, they would set all the coffee companies together in one row. And so there were like eight of us lined up, all brewing coffee, all offering free coffee to people. Uh, I'm not sure if any of the others are still around or not. I'm pretty sure that the John Conti is. I'm pretty sure the Consumer's Choice is. But some of the others, I think S&D's gone. There's a bunch of them that are gone. I used to go up there. Wallingford's gone, obviously. But there would be a kind of a almost a carnival huckster type of attitude to get people over to your booth. Uh, just to see, hey, oh, you own a business, huh? Hey, whose coffee is it? Oh, that stuff's terrible. Come try ours. You'll like it. Yeah, I'm glad those days are gone, me. But take a look at what's going on here in the world of Cardinal athletics, and I think that maybe a good area for us, I don't know, case for us to start might be the volleyball match at the KFCM Center Thursday night, as we had a matchup of the top 10 opponents, number 3 Louisville and number 6 Kentucky. Took place in this thing on Thursday night. Unfortunately, it didn't turn out the Cards' way, although they did get off to a pretty good start. Uh, you know, obviously, winning the first set was nice, but then Kentucky turned around and took the second set by the same score. It was 25-21, and then 21-25.
Yeah, I was hoping we spent enough time talking about Kentucky that we can mostly gloss over this match because Louisville jumped out to a good start. I got a little nervous actually in that first set, even though Louisville was kind of in control. I mentioned just before we started that I was able to watch only the first set on my phone before having to do with conference things. But Louisville got out to I think 12-7. Kentucky brought it back to 14-12, and then all of a sudden, Louisville jumped out to 20-14. So they're saying, all right, well, that's a pretty good start. So for Kentucky to bring it back to 21-25 before the end, you're looking at it, you're thinking, all right, not the cleanest finish there from Louisville, especially at home, carrying as much momentum as they would have had on a big run. And then, like you said, Kentucky comes out in the second set, and they put Louisville right back in a 1-1 tie, same set score. And Louisville, really, I think that's where you see the offense started to struggle. Kentucky also couldn't hit very well in that second set. They hit 0.47, but Louisville hit minus 0.48 in the second set. It really a major struggle. The Cards had 16 kills and 4 errors in the first set. They had 9 kills and 11 errors in the second set. Kentucky was able to block Louisville quite a bit. Louisville did win the blocking battle, but lost the match, so not a whole lot to take away from that. And then coming out of the half, Kentucky still seemed to have Louisville's number. Louisville really escaped in the third set. They very much could have lost this match 3-1 after winning the first. Escaped in the third set with a 26-24 win, and then were roundly thumped in the last two sets. 40-19 in the last two sets, which is not good.
Yeah, that's something you don't want to see happen to a top ranked team in the nation in college volleyball, to have them basically have their lunch handed to them and sent out the door and said go to work. But guess what? The bus isn't here.
Yeah.
It was tough on the Cards, and unfortunately, it just happens sometimes. You get out there, and then when you're playing a good opponent, plus it's the intense addition of the heated rivalry between the two, and let's not dissuade Kentucky one, but they're good, and they're a squad that's probably going to do quite well in the SEC, and then that later on in the NCAA, unless they completely just fall off the wagon completely. But I think they're a good team, Case. And,
Oh, yeah, I mean, absolutely. They've got the same number of losses as Louisville now.
yeah,
And they have a claim that Louisville doesn't have. In fact, they've got two claims that Louisville doesn't have because, well, sorry, SMU was ranked 10th at the time that they played. Kentucky now has 3 wins over teams that were ranked in the top 10 at the time that they played. 2 of those came on the road. So, and they've already played 5 matches against teams in the top 10. They lost a neutral match to Nebraska. They swept Penn State on the road. They got swept by Pitt in a neutral site match right before Louisville played Texas. And then they beat SMU, who was 10th at the time. And now they've won on the road at Louisville. It's Kentucky's first win over Louisville since 2019, I think. Maybe 2021. But first in quite a while. And yeah, Louisville doesn't have a win over a top 10 team. They have not played 5. They're not 0-5 against top 10 teams. But their 2 losses have come against their 2 highest quality opponents so far. Now, Louisville still has to play Stanford twice. They've got to play Pittsburgh twice. They have a lot of opportunities still to play top opponents. But 3-2 losses against both of the 2 that they've played so far, that's not ideal. But to your point, yeah, I think UK is very good. They almost beat Nebraska. Nebraska had to pull off a reverse sweep in that match. Yeah.
Oh, they pulled off a reverse sweep on Louisville. The Cats did.
Well, they took the second.
Almost
time,
a reverse sweep. I'm sorry, I'm wrong.
Well, they almost did. They almost did beat us in 3 straight sets if we hadn't won the third. But yeah, Louisville had to play. Not to take anything away from Kentucky, because they also were playing quite a few matches in a row. Louisville played 1, 2. So in September so far, that was UK's 6th match in 14 days. In September, Louisville has played 7 matches? Louisville's played 7 matches in September in 18 days. They played 3 matches in Omaha. They're playing their 5th match in, 5th match in 8 days. Played on the road in Texas. Then they went to Omaha. They played 3 matches over the weekend. And then they just got a short break with travel to come back home to take on Kentucky. I mean, that's brutal, to be sure, but Kentucky wasn't idle in that time. So, yeah, if Louisville didn't pick up that win on the road at Creighton, we'd be looking at the season and saying, they've got a win over Illinois, right? Like, we need to see more from, and like I said, that both of the losses to top 10 teams are in 5 sets, but in some of the sets that they lost in those 2 matches, they didn't look particularly competitive. So we're going to see. I mean, Western is a decent team. They play on Monday, so they've got a few days off, and they don't have to travel again. And then they're going to get into conference play, and they're really not going to be tested until they go on the road to Stanford in the first week of October. So I think there's still a lot of questions about this team, especially with what looked like a moderate collapse at home against Kentucky. There's a lot of questions about what this team has as far as resiliency, what they have to be able to respond to adversity, to be able to respond to opposing teams making adjustments. They're going to quickly run into teams that they need to beat and not just teams that they outmatch. I think even against Creighton, that was a team that Louisville just outmatched. And even looking back, Louisville hasn't had a sweep since September 1st against St. John's. So even against Northern Iowa, even against Rice, they're not able to complete these matches in 3 sets. and so they're playing a lot of volleyball. I think we just have yet to see the best of them. But you look at the last 4 sets against Kentucky on Thursday, and maybe we have seen the worst of Louisville volleyball so far this season.
And when you take a look at kind of what UK threw at us, let's not forget they had 4 players that ended up in double digits in kills. What I like to call the babbling brooks. Brooke DeLay and Brooke Lima. DeLay had 24. The other Brooke had 11. They had Eva Hudson step up and had a big set or a big match with 17 kills. And even Lizzie Carr got into the action with 10. So on our hand, ours was more of a balanced scoring kind of attack, where Peyton Peterson was the only one who broke into double digits for us with 14 kills. So, and you mentioned it, and I'll mention it too. It's a huge task. My count on it was, and I might be off on this, they had 5 matches in 9 days.
Yep.
4 of them against NCAA tournament teams from 2024. 3 of them top 20 teams this year, and going 5 sets in 2 of those matches. And the only thing missing is I think Jared used, and I put in the article, were 3 French hens, 2 turtle doves, and a partridge in a pear tree, because we certainly had it all thrown on us. But these are the struggles, I think, also of a first-year coach, because sure, let's admit it, Dan had a lot of experience as assistant coach, basically being the floor coach for the guards, while Danny kind of sat there and smiled and sometimes looked like she had no idea where she was at. She's in Nebraska now doing the same thing. Oh, by the way, they're number 1 in the nation. Dan tried to do the best he could out there, but he always had her to kind of lean back on and say, what do you think about this? Am I doing this right? What do you... well, she's out in mid-America right now, and it's his program. I think he'll do a good job with it. I'm going to look for 2 things on him, Case. First of all, how will he recruit with her gone now? And second of all, can he develop another Anna DeBeer? Because let's think about it. Anna DeBeer is probably one of the best girls to step on the Louisville volleyball court in a long, long time. She was just a great one, and having success with the Indy Ignite right now. But Dan's got his work cut out for him, and certainly that's going to basically, just jump right out of the bushes and grab them Monday when they've got to go and bring in WKU for a visit on Monday. And the good thing about that day, it's National Ice Cream Cone Day. So, as I put in my article, maybe we can skip the soft serve and give the WKU squad a rocky road. Okay, enough on that. But so women's soccer, or some field hockey. We've got other sports to talk about, but let's go ahead and kind of sum up volleyball for now. Anything special that you want to talk about or just mention?
Not really. Hey,
We
WKU.
covered it all, yeah.
WKU, I think we expected more from them so far this season. They're 8-3, which you look at and you say, "Oh, that's not too bad." But they lost to Drake at home, and they lost to Vanderbilt at home, which also kind of Vandy is bringing their team back from non-existence, so a little bit of question marks there for the Hilltoppers, but they're going to play today, but they're coming off of back-to-back wins over Bradley and Indiana. Interestingly, all but the Drake match of the matches that WKU has played have been sweeps in one direction or the other.
Wow.
The Drake match went to 5 sets. Their other 2 losses, they were swept. Every win they have swept. So it'll be interesting to see how the match goes on. Maybe Louisville can sweep them and get their first sweep in a while. But Yeah, that'll be an interesting one. And that's on
Oh, I
ESPN,
think
I
it will
think.
too. Yeah.
Big Monday. ACC Network Extra at 6:30
Oh,
p.m. on
okay. It's
Monday.
on
Okay,
extra then. All right.
sure. Move it to the KFC Yum Center, put it on Monday evening, and then put it on ACC Network Extra. That makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Well, I guess they've got to do their Monday Night Football pre-coverage and stuff like that, and everything else that goes on with ESPN. Although,
Well, yeah,
hey, you know what? You
there's
got
only
ESPN
one.
too.
Yeah,
You
there's
got
only one ESPN network, right?
yeah, ESPN two, ESPNU, ESPN me and you, me and me
ACC
and
Network proper.
yeah, me and you and ESPN and a dog named Blue.
I mean,
Whatever you want,
what's
It's
ACC Network airing on Monday night?
probably probably championship tiddlywinks from Clemson. Who knows? ACC Network basically, although we're an integral part of that conference, they
Ah,
tend to be pretty cliquish on the original eight.
yes. On Monday night at 6 p.m., we will get to see a replay of ACC PM. Or no, sorry, it says new. ACC Network's daily news and information show, a replay or a nightly news show, and then at 7 p.m. a replay of today's NC State and Duke football game.
Yeah, once again going back to the original eight, and yeah, they do tend to favor the original eight quite a bit. And that if anywhere that was obvious and evident, that was in Greensboro when they used to have the ACC women's basketball tournament there. Now I don't know how it's going to be down in Charlotte. I haven't been to one in Charlotte. I'll probably never get to one in Charlotte. But when you went to that women's basketball tournament in Greensboro, boy, it was the original eight. And then, you're from Louisville. Well, how are you guys doing over there? We don't hear much about you. Yeah, right. Well, it's because you don't have your ears open. We're a pretty good program ourselves. Was that Jeff Walls that just stomped Clemson into the ground? I think it was. So we had a lot of fun down there. We were lucky enough to be able to hang out when I used to go down with Sonia, and I used to go down with Steve Cunningham, a good friend of mine uh, has basically been hanging around me for years and stuff, going back to Sportsman Supper Club and Parish House and all. We got to hang out with the actual table crew for those tournaments. And it was fun sitting with them during lunches and dinners and stuff or breakfasts and just kind of listen to those guys tell war stories. Uh, Fantastic stuff. I think one of my favorites was they told the story on the late great Jim Valbano when he was coaching, of course, and he was really getting on one of the referees pretty bad, and it got so bad that he basically ran out to half court and started just giving this referee the business. And I can't remember the name of the referee, but he'd been around a while. And he just calmly listened. He said, Jim, you're not supposed to be out here. So for every step you take back to your bench, I'm going to assess your team a technical foul. And Jim was kind of stunned for a second, and then something clicked. And he yelled over at the bench. I forget the two players he called out, Bailey and somebody else, come out here. And his two biggest players came out, and he said, carry me off the court. They're like, what? He said, lift me up so my legs aren't touching the ground and carry me off the court. And so they did. And the referee just kind of scratched his head and said, well, he beat me. I can't charge him a technical one. I said, what I charge him a technical for? But he was quite the coach, I'll tell you what. So anyway, yeah, let's see what happens. Obviously the Cards will get over the loss to the Cats and hopefully play well against the WKU. But we've got other sports to talk about, Case, and let's go ahead and just move it on over, I guess, to women's soccer, huh?
Yeah.
Where we took on a very, very good Clemson squad and beat Clemson. How about that? Our second straight ACC victory.
Yeah. Little women's soccer is doing good things. You look at this match and you say, well, Clemson is 3-2-5 on the year now, 3-1-5 entering the match, and Louisville, who we thought was this big scoring machine, only scored 1 goal for the second match in a row. In ACC play, they've scored 2 goals in 3 games. You look at that and you say, well, that doesn't seem great. But if you take a step back, say, well, the first match was against Florida State on the road, and Louisville looked as competitive against a top ACC opponent as they have, maybe even since joining the ACC. Even if you go back to 2018, 2019, Louisville had double-digit wins in those seasons. They won some games against top ACC foes, but those kind of felt like stealing wins. They didn't do it on the road. I think of 5-0 losses to North Carolina on the road, stuff like that. Louisville was very competitive with Florida State, and ultimately, they lost 2-0. But the second goal was towards the end. It was what it was. The first goal was a penalty. They were very competitive there. So you come in, you say, well, Virginia Tech and Clemson, they probably should have scored more than 2 goals. Should they have? Clemson, like I said, has 5 draws already this year. They opened their season in the ACC play with draws, back-to-back 2-2 draws against Stanford, who was number 3 at the time, and Cal. So Louisville held them to no goals in that match. They've also got a 1-0 draw against Georgia, or 1-1 draw against Georgia. They have a 0-0 draw against South Carolina. And they lost to Virginia Tech 4-0. Louisville did not give up any goals to Virginia Tech, right?
Which is a head scratcher right there for sure, yeah.
But outside of that game against Virginia Tech, Clemson has given up 1, 2, 4, 6. 6 goals they had given up outside of that Virginia Tech match. Entering yesterday's game against Louisville, Clemson had a very good defense. And Louisville was able to get through. They were able to break them down. And then they were able to prevent Clemson from scoring to take a win. You really can't be too mad at that. The Cards now have 9 wins on the season. It's their most since 2019 when they had 13 wins. They are guaranteed to finish above 500 on the season, or they're guaranteed to finish at least 500 on the season. Now, I wrote an article today. If they finish 500 on the season, that would be an incredible disappointment. They have 7 matches remaining. They are 9-2. They would need to lose all 7 of the matches to finish at 500. We do not want to see that happen. I don't think it will happen. There's quite a few opportunities that Louisville should be able to win, and probably win comfortably. There are still some very difficult matches that they have to play. They have to play Notre Dame on the road. They have to play Wake Forest on the road. And then they have to host Virginia. Those could be tough, but, road matches against Boston College, that one feels winnable. Road match against NC State feels pretty winnable. They get Miami at home next. They get SMU at home to wrap up the season. Louisville could threaten that 13-win season from 2019. But I think that a double-digit win season is all but assured. And this team just feels good. The shift to a 4-3-3 from the 4-5-1 that they had been playing, it has made a noticeable difference. At the end of the day, if you look at the players on the pitch and where they are, it doesn't seem that different. But the style of play, how much freedom of movement the players have in those different positions, it makes a big difference in getting an assist from A.G. Gibson to Amelia Snarski in last night's game, right? We'd been seeing Gibson and Betsy Huckabee sitting in the back in the 4-5-2, trying to get forward at some opportunities, but really not being a major part of the offense. And now ostensibly they still play kind of a back center mid position, but they're able to push that ball forward. They're able to get forward themselves. And Louisville's defense has shown that on the back end, they don't need all that support. They've gotten beaten a few times. They've given up a couple of penalties. They've given up some goals. But, yesterday against Clemson, no shots on goal. Clemson only got one corner kick in the whole match. The Cards kind of seem like the real deal.
They're certainly looking that way right now. That's for sure. And you figure, let's take a look at this team. They're 9-2 overall right now. And if you take a look at the losses they had, certainly a loss to FSU. That's not a scary thing. The Vanderbilt loss, Vandy may be turning out to be a good team. I'm not sure on that, but it was early on, and they were probably pretty fired up about beating Auburn, and maybe had a letdown after saying, "Oh, we got to go play Vandy now." But Vandy beat them in any event. Taking a look at what's left here, you've got basically 7 conference games left, all conference games, if I'm not mistaken on that. And then here's a trick question for you: how many ties have the Cards had this year?
0, which is a funny.
That's right.
Funny thing for them.
It's an amazing
recent seasons.
Yeah. I mean, they've either won or lost, and there are no ties involved. So I think one of the things that Karen Ferguson Days has done here is kind of basically just kind of circled the camp. She brought in a new assistant coach and Mike Ballister. Maybe she let him tinker a little bit with what's going on with the team, make some changes, what's going on with the team. Like I think somebody pointed at, they're no longer sitting up in this 4-5-1 formation, and they've gone to a little more balanced 4-3-3 foundation. And I think that's got to be, giving them a little more of attack.
Yeah, definitely. They sit currently entering, or through last week's poll, Louisville was receiving 9 votes. In the actual United Soccer Coaches poll, they were ranked by top drawer. Louisville is very close to getting ranked in the United Soccer Coaches poll for the first time in I don't even remember how long. They're 26th in the RPI right now, not including last night's win. The Cards are they're getting some attention from everybody else, and the worst thing that can happen is you start getting that attention and then things don't go your way. We were a little worried about having to start the season on the road against Florida State and kind of crushing all the momentum that they had. But they did. They come out of that with a loss, and they come back home, and like we said, back-to-back 1-0 wins. And now you're moving into a portion of the ACC where obviously you still have those 2 tough road matches against Wake and Notre Dame, who are currently 6th place Notre Dame in the coaches poll, 16th Wake Forest, both pretty high in the RPI as well. But it is what it is. You'll play the games that are on your schedule. They don't have to play Stanford. They don't have to play North Carolina. They don't have to play Duke. Great. That's great. Looking at the schedule, you'll take these tough games against Notre Dame, Wake, and obviously Virginia is currently ranked number 1. So great, awesome, love that for us. But they've beaten number 1 ranked ACC teams in Louisville before. Why not another one this year? And so, are we going to make the 6-team ACC tournament? I don't know. There's 15 teams in the league. Why do we still have a 6-team, or 18 teams in the league? Sorry, there's 18 teams in the league. Why do we still have a 6-team ACC tournament? Couldn't tell you. But
that's a baffling statistic too. That's had us confused here for years, and especially now with the expansion, and you've brought in the West Coast and SMU and such. And
it's just lazy. Like they switched it for COVID, and then they just never switched it back. And
it's like there's nobody home in the offices at the ACC. You keep calling and you get a recording.
You're not worried about getting teams left out of the NCAA tournament as a result of losing in the ACC tournament. right? Like, if anything, you would be putting your teams in a position to more teams to make the NCAA tournament. ACC's winning conference or winning championship after championship. It's not. It's not some mystery of like, is the ACC good at women's soccer? Yeah, they're really good. You're not Louisville knocking off North Carolina in the quarterfinals of the ACC tournament doesn't keep North Carolina out of the NCAA tournament, but it maybe gives Louisville a better resume towards the NCAA tournament themselves. So I just don't get it. I don't get why they're not giving more opportunity there. But that's beside the point. Is Louisville going to make that 6-team playoff? I don't know. But they're probably going to make the NCAA tournament at this rate. With the conference, with the non-conference schedule that they played and the way that they performed, getting double-digit wins. They've already got 2 ACC wins. To get to double digits, they'd have 3. To get to 3-4 ACC wins, double-digit wins. You look at the NCAA selection committee and say, you're thinking there's 64 teams better than us? Probably not. And so, yeah, this women's soccer team's in a very good spot.
I think one of the statistics that I didn't really realize until I read it in an article about women's soccer is we've got 8 clean sheets. Now, what does that mean? That we've been being the housekeepers part-time? No, it doesn't mean that. It means that basically 8 teams have failed to score on us. Obviously, with our wins, 9 wins, that's a defense that I kind of like a lot. And one of the things that's got me going too here about us a little bit is sure, we've had some tough games. There's no doubt about that. We've got some tough games ahead of us, though. But this is a team right now, Case, and I think you can agree with me that they're not afraid of anybody. They go out and they just say, okay, we got our cleats on, let's play. We don't care who you are, let's go.
Yeah, I absolutely. I look back at that FSU win or match, and like I say, they were there. They gave Florida State everything that they wanted, even after conceding the penalty, which the FSU announcers were a lot more confident was a penalty than I was. They were never going to take it back, but Carson Cherry kind of got a raw deal there, in my opinion. But even after conceding the penalty, Louisville was like, we're not going down without a fight. They put Florida State under pressure. They kept trying to find an equalizer. And were they successful? Not a ton. But that's not to take anything away from Florida State's defense. Florida State's defense was very good. And so saying, well, Louisville is leading the country in shots, and they've only got 4 shots against Florida State. It's like, okay, what is Florida State's ranking in shots allowed, right? Like, they're it's a very strong defense. They put the clamps on Louisville, and they knew how to kind of shut down Louisville's attack in the midfield. Good to them on that, but Louisville didn't back down, and they did manage to get some opportunities. Certainly made Florida State fans sweat a lot more than they expected, and so yeah, like you said, they're not afraid of anybody. And we're gonna see how it plays out over these next few matches. They've got some more opportunities against tough teams, but we've seen they're not going to back down, like you said.
And one of the things also that kind of I found interesting in just taking a look at who we played, who we're playing, the concept of the league and everything else is that there is a very, very obvious lack of playing the West Coast. We got nothing going on against Stanford. We got nothing going on against California this year.
Fine by me.
Those are 2 pretty decent teams, really. When you look at Stanford right now, and where they're sitting in the scheme of things and everything, they're 1-0 with a tie in conference. But when you take a look at Stanford overall, they're 7-1-1, and that's pretty good shooting text. And then you've got California, which is kind of like the antithesis of Stanford. They've got 5 ties also. So, I just don't quite get that one. But I don't know if I can't understand why we're not playing West Coast when everybody else is. You say it's fine with you. I'd like the competition.
Oh, yeah,
But
we've got plenty.
oh,
so,
yeah, there's a ton of plenty already.
so looking at the United Soccer Coaches poll from this Monday. Number 1, Virginia. Number 2, Stanford. Number 3, Duke. We don't play Stanford or Duke. Cool, fine by me. UCLA, Tennessee. Number 6, Notre Dame. Got to play them. Number 7, Florida State. Already played them. Number 17, Vanderbilt. We played. 16, Wake Forest. We played. 18, North Carolina. We don't have to play them. Fine by me. And then that's the rest of the teams that are ranked for the ACC. Also receiving votes: Louisville 9, Clemson 4. Just beat them. Louisville has had an incredibly tough schedule, and that's the deal with being in the ACC. You say, oh, you don't have to play Stanford or North Carolina or Duke. Okay, 6 one way, half a dozen the other. We did play teams that are in the top 10. We will play teams that are in the top 15. It's not just because you dodge some of those very difficult teams, still have very difficult teams on the schedule. And so, yeah, I don't mind avoiding the West Coast teams. It's just the way the schedule worked out. You played 10 conference matches. There's 18 teams. You're not going to play everybody. And it's just kind of the way it worked out for Louisville this season.
And kind of looking at how the conference sits right now, Florida State alone at the top, they have 9 points, which, how they do the scheduling on that's kind of weird to me. But anyway, they've got 9 points. And one of the things that I like to look at is the goals that have been scored and goals that have been allowed. Florida State has a 27-1 advantage over opponents this year in goals scored as to goals allowed.
Yeah, but Louisville's offense looked like they couldn't do anything against Florida State. Nobody could do anything against Florida State. They gave up 1 goal all year.
That's just an amazing stat to me. Well, obviously, Florida State's very good in quite a few programs, and if you take a look at some of the things that are going on with them and some of the things that they've got basically facing them ahead of them, of course, they're kind of like the Cards. I think they've got 7 games left in conference like we do. Now they're playing both of the West Coast schools, Florida State is, but they're bringing them both to Tallahassee. As a matter of fact, when you take a look at it, I think I'm right on this. They're playing in Tallahassee for 4 of their final 7 games. Then they get to go to North Carolina to go against Carolina and State. They've already beaten Carolina. And then they end the season, of course, playing Wake Forest. So it doesn't look like there's any world beaters that are going to come in and basically upset their apple cart. But once again, we don't know about what's going to go on when they bring in the West Coast teams. I know that there's probably going to be a lot of grumbling, no case from the West Coast about having to come out here and do all that stuff.
Well, they agreed to join the league.
Yeah, I'm not sure that they were willing participants right off the bat to come join the ACC, but then they kind of took a look and said, well, hey, guess what? They're in the Pac-12 anymore. We better go find a conference, and we don't hear the Big 12 calling us. So, hi, ACC. How y'all doing? Got room? Well, fine. Do you mind if we have a seat? Thank you. Not to say they're in good competition in the ACC, though, especially in women's soccer. Good stuff to look at, good stuff to watch and match. But, so we've seen that going on. Some other things. I think an area that we need to maybe discuss in the final few minutes here would be our women's field hockey squad, or the field hockey squad, since there is no men's field hockey at Louisville. There is other schools.
I don't know. Is there any collegiate field hockey in NCAA? There might be club teams, but I don't know if the NCAA sponsors men's field teams,
hockey. I think Vanderbilt's got one. there's a couple that do have the men's teams in field hockey, but primarily it's known as a women's sport, obviously. So in most circles, but how about this Ohio State win? The Cards upsetting them.
Yeah. Just a quick Google. It looks like the NCAA only identifies field hockey, so they don't have a men's field hockey and women's field hockey program or distinction. So I don't think that the NCAA sponsors men's field hockey anywhere, which is kind of interesting because it is an Olympic sport, men's field hockey.
Yeah.
Louisville or the U.S. is not very good, probably because we don't have a collegiate program. But that's beside the point. Yeah, Louisville field hockey. Tough week last week. Brutal loss to Northwestern in the way that went on Friday. And you think, okay, well, take that as it was. Come out against Iowa and show them what you got. No, they did not do that. You follow up a heartbreaker of a loss against Northwestern with an absolute egg against Iowa. 5-1, completely thumped at home. So, not the best vibes over at Traeger last weekend. You bring in Ohio State this weekend, final Big Ten game of Louisville's Big Ten conference schedule. They play 5 Big Ten teams. They play 7 ACC.
You
7
mean Baylor was out in the Big Ten?
7 or 8 ACC matches. I mean, he basically played a full conference schedule against the Big Ten. Louisville finished with above 500 against the Big Ten. 2 of those wins were against middling teams, right? Michigan State and Indiana. And the loss to Iowa was bad. Northwestern's very good. Louisville scored the first goal of the season on them. Speaking of solid defenses like Florida State, Louisville scored the first goal of the season on Northwestern, and as a result, were the first team to have them trailing before just that unfortunate ending. And so you come in and you bring in a top 20 ranked Ohio State team. Say, all right, take 2. Couldn't get it done against Iowa after the loss to Northwestern. Last chance. A field hockey rivalry, really. Louisville and Ohio State, they play quite frequently. And, Cards got it done. 2 goals back-to-back in the second quarter. It almost took it into the half with a 2-goal advantage, which I think would have been very encouraging and probably demoralizing for Ohio State. But the Buckeyes managed to get a goal a little bit very shortly before halftime. Louisville got it right back in the third quarter and then played a heck of a ton of defense in the fourth. Ohio State was pretty relentless. They had 7 shots in the six shots in the fourth quarter. They ended up pulling the goalie, scored to make it a 1-goal advantage with the empty net with 3.5 minutes to go, and then tried their luck to catch Louisville sleeping. Checking the box score play-by-play this morning while I was writing my article, Ohio State scores their goal at 56-32. Goal by Ohio State. Sienna Golden. 56-34. Shot by Ohio State, Lauren Jordan. Defensive save by Chloe Kazepi. So they very nearly caught Louisville off guard and scored after stealing the opening, or after taking the opening draw. That would have been a disaster. even worse than the one against Northwestern. So Louisville's defense after that managed to keep control of the ball for the remaining 3.5 minutes and took the win. You can say what you want about how it nearly got away from them at the very end, but Louisville pretty much controlled the match. And Emily Young, well, I wrote an article that she had 6 saves, but I guess technically that's not true because 1 goes to Chloe Kazepi. But Louisville's defense was there. You gave up 2 goals, but you scored 3. There were 32 total shots in this match between the 2 teams. There were 18 total shots on goal. There were 12 penalty corners, and there were no penalty corner goals. The closest came on Louisville technically getting a rebound goal from Gracie Potter on a penalty corner, but it didn't count as a PC goal. So the defenses had to do work, and Louisville got the win. And for all of the hemming and hawing and what ifs, and Louisville's not quite getting it done this season, they're above 500. They've got 3 wins over Big Ten teams. You got another tough match against a top 15 St. Joseph's team on the road tomorrow, and then conference play is here. After tomorrow, Louisville has one more non-conference match, minor breather between Wake Forest and heading on the road to take on Duke when they play Bellarmine. This is where it is. Do or die time for Louisville after that unfortunate weekend last weekend, and they did. So we'll see if they can keep that up with another top 15 opponent tomorrow, and then try and carry that momentum into conference play.
And basically, when you first of all, my main question on this one is when you kind of look at it and think about it, it's like, why are they playing this in Indy? Do they not like Louisville? I mean, what's the deal? Is there something going on that I don't know about, Case?
What are you talking about?
When they play St. Joseph tomorrow,
It's in Philly.
I thought I saw it was in Indy.
No, it's in Philly.
Must have been a misprint on one site then.
Gotcha. Yeah,
Because
it's a road match at St. Joseph's.
Yeah, okay. Because I saw it was in Indy at first, and I'm like,
that would have been weird. I don't know why they would have played it there.
Yeah, I'll make the correction on the website too, because I put down at Indy. But okay, so obviously taking a look at St. Joe, okay, they're one of those schools that you really don't follow a whole lot unless it's one of the what they call minor or Olympic sports, because they're never a basketball power, obviously not a football power. I have no idea what they do in baseball, but then it's field hockey, where hey, give them some credit. They did pretty well against New Hampshire, beating them. They beat UConn, always a very very good thing to do, but and just barely lost to Penn State, which was I think number 18 in the nation at the time they played them, and lost to them 2-1 in overtime, but then turned around and beat American, and they also beat Maryland. No, they lost to Maryland. I'm sorry, lost to Maryland 1-0, so they were in that one all the way. Beat St. Louis, and now come the Cards, and yeah, I was just looking here, and
Well, the crazy thing to me is that this will be St. Joseph's second home match of the year. Their first home match was their first conference match of the season when they played St. Louis yesterday. Yeah, it's just weird. Not that I mean, even home matches for Louisville, other than the comfort of playing on your own turf, there's not a whole lot of a home field advantage in most Olympic sports, especially when you talk about like St. Joseph's, right? But they finally have stopped traveling. They've finally gotten to come home, and they get some pretty good confidence building with your first win at home against a conference opponent 3-0. So Louisville's definitely going to have their hands full. Quick turnaround after a home match on Friday and then a travel day and then playing at noon on a Sunday. Louisville has certainly not gotten the advantage of time slot scheduling so far this season. But, we saw after their loss against Drexel, they had a quick turnaround and they beat up on Indiana. So it's going to be a really tough match for the Cards, but they are playing, I think, to prove that they do belong in the top 25 conversation. And if they can manage a road win against a top 15 opponent, then they're going to have a pretty good shot about it.
They participate in the A10, as we mentioned there. Not a powerhouse conference, I don't think. You take a look at some of the schools that are playing Lock Haven, okay, fine, somewhere in Pennsylvania. VCU, We've heard of them in some other sports, not so much in field hockey though. They take on the Richmond Spiders and Davidson, LaSalle. Not exactly teams that really bring fear to my heart and anticipation for a brutal match to the end. But then again, you never know. And of course, it is field hockey. Anything can happen for sure. But the Cards basically are falling in there to play them, and this one's going to be shown on ESPN Plus. So I don't know. Tune it in if you want to. I think I'll have other things going on Sunday that I'd rather watch. Gonna wish the best for us, but seriously, ESPN Plus.
I mean, that's just what the A10 probably has as their agreement.
I'm guessing so, but they're gouging their loyal fans out of more money than they need to. Just my opinion. And going down and scrolling, yeah, Davidson's on ESPN Plus. They're playing Penn on ESPN Plus. They're playing Drexel, and so yeah, you're right. It's
their home.
Yeah, it's their home channel.
Yep.
That people got to pay out the nose for. Okay, well, whatever. Hey, we have had a very, very good show today. We've covered a lot of good things, and we're already at and a little bit past noon, so maybe we should just go ahead and roll it on into some final thoughts. Oh, no. I'll let you start it out.
Yeah. Tough for volleyball. It's incredible to see the performances that we're getting from the women's soccer team. I've been on the wrong. Been unfortunately not able to attend a lot of the home matches so far this season, and still have some conflicts with upcoming ones. But gonna try and get out a few more times. But this Louisville women's soccer team is very fun to watch. The games are fun to be at. The team is very exciting. So if you have not made it out to Lynn Stadium this season, then I encourage you to do so.
I would recommend it highly. I haven't been either. I doubt I'm going to get out there this year due to some physical constraints and health issues. But I can certainly remember a lot of fun times I've had out there, and certainly some of the fun interviews we've done post game as well as during games. So just the banter in the press box, and always a good time up there. And
One last final thought about since you mentioned the press box. What the heck traveling circus did Clemson have that they filled the press box
you gotta wonder.
with staff members for an away women's soccer match? I don't know. Weird.
Yeah, Jared, our writer and photographer, said he went in there and it was full Clemson folk.
I don't know. Anyway,
and I just wonder we'll look real quick. What was Clemson's football schedule? Are they playing?
I was trying to figure out if Clemson football's on the road and if they just all the staff was traveling together. Maybe.
You got to wonder. I mean, maybe we could look that up real quick while I go into my final thoughts. You can tell me at the very end here, but yeah, just final thoughts out of me here. Certainly, I'm looking forward to the end of these, and in the middle and the end of these 3 fall sports that we cover quite a bit here. And I had somebody ask me, why do you only cover those 3? Well, they're the 3 that tend to make the most noise and get the most attention, and the ones that the people are most interested in. Certainly, in the past, we've covered women's golf quite a bit. There's we're an all-year sports website, and if you don't like, wait a couple months, we'll be covering something else. But if hey, we're giving you a lot more coverage than a lot of people do. So you got a plate full of mashed potatoes. What do you want now? Gravy and butter for them? We'll see if we can supply it. But what you got for me? Did you find anything out on that?
Yeah, traveling circus is my final answer. Clemson football was at home on Thursday night. Sorry, that's October. Sorry. Clemson is at home against Syracuse today. So, don't know what's going on there. And Clemson volleyball is at home this weekend. I got nothing. I don't know why they sent the whole shop to the women's soccer game.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it? But anyway, who knows? I've lost my Clemson connections down there, but anyway, I usually get the inside scoop on stuff like that, but that doesn't happen anymore. So, I want to thank everybody for listening to today's broadcast, though. Hey, and if you ever get an idea on something you'd like Me, Case, Jared, whoever's on the broadcast to talk about, shoot us an email if you want to. Shoot it directly to me at Cardinal Couple at TWC. That's Tom Wilson Charlie.com. I'll be happy to answer it, maybe send you back something sarcastic, but we'll certainly look at it and see if it's something that we want to cover. And till then, have a great rest of the weekend. And as we like to end with, go Cards.